When John White returned to the island in 1590, the colony was gone. No bodies, no smoke, no sound, only a single word carved into a tree, CROATOAN. And for over 4 centuries, no one has ever truly known what happened to them. The Dream of a New World, 1584 to 1587. The year was 1584. Queen Elizabeth I of England ruled a restless empire, a nation hungry for glory, wealth, and expansion. Spain had claimed vast treasures from the New World, and England, still struggling under its shadow, sought to stake its own claim across the Atlantic. Sir Walter Raleigh, a charismatic courtier and explorer, convinced the Queen that England's future lay not in Europe, but in America, a land untamed, fertile, and full of promise. Raleigh received a royal patent. He could establish a colony in the New World in the name of the Crown. That summer, 2 small ships, the bark Raleigh and the Dorothy, set sail toward the unknown. Their mission? Explore the coast of the land the natives called Winnebago, what would one day become North Carolina. When the sailors reached the outer banks, they found a string of barrier islands surrounded by shallow waters and shifting sands. They named the region Roanoke Island. The native tribes were wary but curious. The explorers described lush forests, abundant fish, and fields that could yield crops. When they returned to England, they brought back dazzling stories and 2 native men, Montejo and Wanchus, who became the first Native Americans to cross the Atlantic. Raleigh saw opportunity. He envisioned a New England in America, a place for trade, expansion, and perhaps a base for attacking Spanish ships in the Caribbean. And so he planned England's first permanent colony. The first colony, a doomed beginning. In 1585, a fleet of 7 ships under Richard Grenville carried over 100 men, mostly soldiers and artisans, to establish the first settlement. Among them was John White, an artist and mapmaker whose detailed sketches would later become some of the earliest visual records of the New World. They built a small fort on Roanoke Island and began to explore. But paradise quickly revealed its teeth. Supplies dwindled. Relations with the native tribes turned hostile. Grenville returned to England for reinforcements, leaving the settlers behind. The colonists clashed with the CROATOAN tribe, and after months of tension, they abandoned the island. When the famed sailor Sir Francis Drake stopped by on his return from the Caribbean, he found the colonists desperate and took them back to England. When Grenville finally returned with fresh supplies, he found only empty huts and silence. Still, Raleigh refused to give up. The Lost Colony. 2 years later, in 1587, Raleigh tried again. This time not with soldiers, but with families. A civilian colony of 115 settlers, including men, women, and children, set sail for Roanoke. Among them was John White, now the appointed governor of the colony, along with his daughter, Eleanor Dare, and her husband, Ananias Dare. Their arrival, however, was plagued by misfortune. They were supposed to settle further north, in the Chesapeake Bay area, but the ship's captain refused to go further. The colonists were dropped at Roanoke once again. They rebuilt the fort, planted crops, and hoped for peace with the locals. In August 1587, Eleanor Dare gave birth to a baby girl, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World. But soon, food short, relations native deteriorated once again. John White decided to sail back to England for supplies, promising his colony he would return quickly. He couldn't have known that war was about to erupt between England and Spain. 3 years of silence, 1587 to 90. White's return to England was met with chaos. The Spanish Armada was preparing to invade. Every English ship was commandeered for defense. Raleigh and his sponsors were ordered to halt all voyages to America. White pleaded for a vessel to return to his people, but it took 3 long years before he finally secured passage back to Roanoke. When he arrived in August 1590, the island was deserted. No signs of battle, no graves, no remains. The fort was dismantled and the houses overgrown. Theories, legends, and shadows. Was it a message, a direction? CROATOAN was the name of a nearby island, modern-day Hatteras Island, home to Monteo's tribe. White wanted to go there immediately, but a violent storm forced the ship back to sea. He never saw Roanoke again. Over the centuries, historians, archaeologists, and storytellers have wrestled with the same haunting question: what happened to the lost colony? Some believe they assimilated with local tribes, intermarrying and blending into the native population. Others believe they migrated inland, dying of starvation or disease. Still others claimed darker fates: massacre, abduction, or even supernatural disappearance. In 1937, a series of mysterious stones known as the Dare Stones were discovered across the Carolinas, allegedly carved by Eleanor Dare herself. They told a grim story of death and survival. Most were later dismissed as hoaxes, but some, intriguingly, still defy complete debunking. In the 21st century, modern DNA research and satellite imaging have uncovered traces of early English artifacts on Hatteras Island. Tools, pottery, and trade items that shouldn't have been there unless some survivors reached it. Yet even now, the full truth remains elusive. The colony simply vanished. The legacy of the lost colony. Roanoke became more than a mystery. It became a symbol of hope, ambition, and tragedy. The settlers' fate haunted generations of Americans. Virginia Dare, the lost infant, became a legend, a ghostly figure said to wander the forests searching for her people. And perhaps buried beneath the sand dunes and pine roots of the Carolina coast, their story still sleeps, waiting for someone to uncover the final piece of the puzzle.